I got a phone call the same week, about 18 months ago, from 2 different studios saying they want to make a movie out of it. And
Wow.
it was like out of left field. And, I figured some people won't read a book, they won't go to a church, but they'll come to a movie theater. So I was all for it. I went with Pure Flix because I'd been in God's Not Dead too. I played myself as an expert witness in a scene. So I had to know them a little bit, and I trusted them. And I said, I'll do it if you can promise that Brian Bird will write the movie.
The Case for Christ, the book, is a compendium of world-class experts basically laying out the case for Christ, laying out all the evidence that has been gathered over the centuries about the resurrection, the crucifixion, and the validity, right, of the case for Christ. That's not a movie. So I told Pyrrhus, I said, we have to tell their story. We have to tell, because I knew a little bit about their personal story from our friendship. And I said, we got to tell a love story. We can blend the search for meaning and the search for evidence into a love story. But you have to have a personal story for the audience to fall in love with characters and want to even go on that journey, right? And as Lee said, it's hard for, people that have never been exposed to this material to pick up a 300-page book and dive in, right? But a movie is a fantastic way to introduce them to this material and have them fall in love with characters that they are rooting for, right? They want to save this marriage. And this was a marriage that was in trouble because Leslie had found Jesus at Willow Creek Church. And Lee thought, my wife's in a cult. My wife's in the Willow Creek cult. I got to rescue her. I got to save her. And so he tried to debunk Christianity in order to save his wife from the cult. And what happened at the end of the day is that he realized that the evidence was overwhelming for her faith. And he had no choice but to embrace it. But it was her love for him and her praying for him and loving on him even through all of his pretty bad behavior that was the icing on the cake. The evidence was the cake, Leslie was the icing. And that love story is so beautifully told in this movie.
My background's in journalism and law, so I'm an investigator. And just as I would pursue, and one of my major stories was I broke a lot of the stories and wrote the book on the Ford Pinto controversy of the dangerous way in which that car, many people were killed because of the design of the car. And I broke that story by finding documents and interviewing people and asking questions. And it was a similar experience. I had to study archaeology. I had to study ancient history. I had to study science. I had to find people who could enlighten me on areas that I was ignorant about. And whereas I thought this was something in terms of debunking Christianity that I could do in a weekend, it kept coming back. It wouldn't go away, and every time I would punch it, it would resist and it would bounce back. So I was rather shocked when I began to see fact after fact historically that points toward Christianity actually having a foundation that is true. I realized in light of this avalanche of evidence that pointed so powerfully toward the truth of Christianity, it would have required more faith for me to maintain my atheism than to become a Christian. So it's like the scales tipped. And that was the moment I realized, based on the historical data, I was convinced that Jesus not only claimed to be the Son of God, but backed it up by returning from the dead. And then it was John 1:12 that says the equation of faith is believe plus receive equals become. I believed, but I had also received this free gift of God's grace, forgiveness, and eternal life, to receive this free gift to become a child of God. And that's when I prayed, repented of my sin, confessed my immorality and my narcissism and my drinking and the damage I had done to my wife and family. And turned from that, received Christ, and like Leslie, then my life began to change.